There's a picture behind me of a guy named Eric Liddell. Chariots of Fire, 1981, best picture. One of my, I can't think of a more favorite picture that I enjoyed more than Chariots of Fire. And a lot of that's because I love running, and there was a picture about a man who pleased God by running. Well, Eric Liddell was a very fast runner. Back in 1924, he was going to run in the 100 meters in the Olympics, going to run for England. He was a guy out of Scotland. But he was also looking to the mission field. Both he and his sister were very excited about going and serving God on the mission field. In the 1924 Summer Olympics, which were held in Paris, Eric Liddell found out that the preliminaries were going to be held on a Sunday. And being very strict in his religious background about the Sabbath day, he changed his race from the 100 meters to the 400 meters and began training for that. The 1924 Olympics game, he ran in the 400 meters and he won the 400 meters. And then he went off to China as a missionary. Well, my favorite line in this movie is when his sister, who thought this was all a distraction, all this running was unnecessary, that she spoke to him and questioned whether he should be doing it. And this is what Eric Liddell said. He said, I don't remember her name, but he said her name, and he said, God has made me fast. And when I run, I feel his pleasure. God has made me fast, and when I run, I feel his pleasure. When I think about that line, I think about living within a zone of pleasing God. And how enjoyable that must be. To live each day and to feel the pleasure of God upon your life. You know, God has made each one of us for a purpose. God has created you with something that's unique about you. He's got a purpose for your life. He's placed within you everything that's going to make that purpose successful for your life. And there's a parameter that God invites us to of living within his pleasures. And most of us, we just kind of go through life and we just kind of wake up and do what we're going to do each day. And we have our own agendas. We have our own thoughts. We kind of try to invite a little bit of a commitment to God here and there and try to make it to church. But are you waking up thinking about pleasing God today? That God has made me. God has gifted me. God has called me to pursue that gift and to live a life that's pleasing to him. And that's his invitation to me every day. That's the invitation of faith. That is the contact point of faith. You know, David woke up one day and there was a giant out there that God had there, but God had put everything ready for that giant. Joshua woke up one day and there was a great walled city out there that God had called him to conquer. God had a miracle waiting for that day. Abraham woke up one day and God said, I've got a place that's going to shake you up, but you're going to have a child even though you're 100 years of age. And those are the contact points where we discover who God is and our relationship with God is really built. When we step out into trusting God in intimidating circumstances. Circumstances that are bigger than our ability to pull them off. And yet God calls us to them. You know, if you are living a typical, bland, predictable religious experience, that's a pretty discouraging way to go through life when God's offering something so much better. But sometimes we get caught up in that rut of just kind of following through what we've always done, the way it's always been in our heart, and never realizing God may be calling us to something amazing that day. If we would just take time to stop and listen. And instead of God being pleased with our life, he looks at our life and he yawns. There's nothing there that impresses him or keeps his attention because we're really not focused on him. We're not even thinking about hearing from him that day.